Good morning. Hey, good morning to you. It is 6 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am decidedly not Chris Hand. Chris Hand is going to be in later this afternoon, filling in for Matt Murphy, who is still recovering but doing well. And this is our Friday. I mean, we're not going to be on the 3rd or the 4th because they're company holidays, and so we're going to take full advantage of that. But I'm going to be filling in today, and then I'll be back when I'm back. That's what it is with retired. You never know. You just have to sit by the phone and wait for them to call you. But man, I tell you, I'm got to be honest with you. It's been a heck of a week to be here in the chair, just like last week was. So much is going on. That you got to keep up with all of it. And I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come in here and talk because, quite frankly, in retirement, the only thing that I can do when something happens and I feel like I got to get it off my chest is I turn to my bulldog. And she's getting quite weary of it, quite frankly. She's not at all excited about that at all. She would just soon not hear that. So I'm glad that you were there for me. Let's see. Well, yesterday, as you know, during this program, we passed the big, beautiful bill out of the Senate and sent it over to the House. A couple of things just to follow up on that before we move into the events of today is that, one way that you can look at this and the way that it will be great to look at it when it comes time for for the midterm elections is that yesterday, all 45 Senate Democrats voted against the measure, which means that they would have voted for a $4 trillion tax increase. Now they were just against the bill, but honestly, by being against the bill, you are saying that you are for a $4 trillion tax increase, which means that you will have a lot of those ads, that'll come out. Something like, the Democrats wanted to raise your taxes by $4 trillion, but Republicans wouldn't allow it. I mean, it'll be a lot of fun. That'll be fun. All 45 Senate Democrats just voted for a $4 trillion tax increase. The big, beautiful bill, I think this is, I'm trying to figure out when this. I messed up. This is CBS, I think. Big, beautiful bill was dragged over the Senate finish line with the support of just half the chamber, plus one tie-breaking vote from Vice President J.D. Vance. And as you know, it requires some work in the House still. Without the passage, the tax cuts that Trump put in 2017 would expire. So there's that. The holdout yesterday, the person who had to be negotiated with, was Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. That's interesting. Lisa Murkowski, Republican from Alaska, the daughter of Frank Murkowski, who was the previous senator from Murkowski and a former governor of that state. She was the one who needed convincing. She got to yes on the $3.3 trillion mega bill, thanks to some concessions about the rollout of Medicaid cuts in the state of Alaska. She got basically special dispensation to get her vote. And she was really, nailed to the wall. And she was walking down the hall, and this NBC correspondent walked up to her to talk about it. And the fact that other senators had criticized what she was doing, she was not at all pleased to be stopped and asked that question. Here's Lisa Murkowski from yesterday. I have to turn off I'm watching the House floor, so I have to turn that off before I can do this. Okay, here we go. This is Lisa Murkowski.
Senator Paul said that that your vote was a bailout for Alaska at the expense of the rest of the country.
Oh my God.
That's what Senator Paul said.
She just stares at him.
Senator, we've got the...
I didn't say it, ma'am. I'm just asking for your response.
My response is I have an obligation to the people of the state of Alaska. When people suggest that federal dollars go to one of our 50 states in a, quote, bailout, I find that offensive. Do I
offensive.
like this bill? No, because I tried to take care of Alaska's interests. But I know that in many parts of the country, there are Americans that are not going to be advantaged by this bill.
So there you go. You may hear in the background, this is the floor of the House of Representatives. We're watching that very closely because that is where we will have a vote here in just a short while on the big, beautiful bill, if they can get the votes. Now, here's the thing. We'll leave that running in the background. Maybe something happening there. House Republicans do not have the votes yet to pass Trump's mega bill. From CNBC, the House of Representatives on Tuesday took the reins of President Donald Trump's mega bill from the Senate, narrowly passed it following days of grueling negotiations. Now, Republican Speaker Mike Johnson staring down an uncertain path for the bill through his chamber, where several members of his conference have already publicly registered their objection to the Senate-approved version of the bill. It passed in the Senate by 51-50. Vice President J.D. Vance was there to break the tie. So it was 51-50 with Vance applying. So there you have all that. Now, what will happen? Well, in the rule, you have to have in the House of Representatives. A lot of people don't know this. You have the bill, but you have to pass the rule about how the bill is going to be considered before you actually get to the bill, and they're in that process now. Went to the Rules Committee, and it got out. It passed the Rules Committee because Republicans are in the majority there. But here's what you need to know. It got out with 2 Republicans on that committee voting against it. I mean, it just squeaked out of the Rules Committee, which is not a good sign for the bill itself. So I don't think they have it. As I understand it, President Trump is going to have a meeting with recalcitrant Republicans on the House side this morning to try to work it all out. And, they're gonna fold like a cheap suit. And I'm going to tell you why they're going to do that. Because they do not want to cross a president who is extremely popular. Listen to what Harry Hinton has to say. This is the CNN number cruncher. Listen to what he has to say about how popular Trump is at this particular moment. Way more popular than other Republican presidents.
Yeah, okay, so we're going to look at the strongly approved number. So this isn't just Republicans who like Donald Trump. This is Republicans who love Donald Trump. And he's up like a rocket. Look at this. In July 2017, the strongly approved was 53%. That's pretty good. But look at where he is now. 63% of Republicans strongly approve of the job that Donald Trump is doing about 5 months into his presidency. Republicans love Donald Trump the way that Americans love Disney World. The bottom line is 63%. That is a huge, huge base. And of course, it's just part of a Republican base in which about 90% of them overall approve of him, including the somewhat approves as well.
So think about that for a moment. Republicans love what is happening. And I'm among them. I love what's happening. I've never seen a more productive 6-month stretch of a presidency, especially in the second term. Really very unusual. Big wins. But so, you got 63% who are strongly supportive of the president. And overall, just, either strongly or mostly supportive, you have like 92% of Republicans. Which is why there are not going to be many Republicans in the House of Representatives ultimately who want to stand in this man's way. Now, if you're leaving the institution, if you're not running for re-election, then you're free to do with it as you please. But, if you're not, if you kind of count on getting re-elected, the one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to be primaried, because Trump has a pretty good reputation for getting people that he chooses to support into office, so he will come against you if you stand against this big, beautiful bill. You could well be primary.
Every politician would like this number here, especially to see it go up. How about compared to other presidents who were Republicans?
Yeah, it's history making. It's history making. What are we talking about here? So why don't we look back? We have all the presidents, Republican presidents, going back over the last 35, 36, 37 years. What are we talking about? GOP, who strongly approved 5 months in. Look at this. George H.W. Bush, Bush 41, 46%. Bush 43, 59. You see Trump, the first term, 53. But look at this. 63%. He beats all the other Republicans on the board here. And I was looking even back since Reagan. And get this, Donald Trump beats Ronald Reagan when it comes to the strongly approved 5 months. And of course, Reagan was coming off that high after that assassination attempt. So the bottom line is Donald Trump is making history with the Republican base. He is more beloved by this Republican base than any Republican base loved any GOP president 5 months in. It is history making.
It's amazing, really, when you think about, Trump is more popular than Reagan was at this point in his second term.
Striking number. Tillis stepping aside after President Trump threatened to primary him. The question is, how effective is Trump's endorsement? We know it can hurt, but how effective is it?
Yeah, okay. So, the bottom line is, if you're a Republican lawmaker, you see this 63%, you say, my goodness gracious, you do not want to go against Donald Trump because the Republican base is with Donald Trump. And it's not just the polling. We actually have the data to show that the Republican base is with Donald Trump. The Times Trump endorsees won the GOP primary for governor and congressional races. Look at this. 2024, 96%. 2022, 95%. 2020, 98%. The bottom line is this. 95% plus of the time, the Trump-endorsed candidate wins in GOP primaries. And even in the cases where Donald Trump endorses a challenger to an incumbent, the majority of the time, that challenger wins. So Donald Trump is a winner in Republican primaries. You go against Donald Trump, to quote the movie Good Burger, you go in the grinder. Donald Trump is the key nugget. His endorsement is the key nugget in a GOP primary because he's historically strongly popular with the GOP.
Well, I think that's exactly right, Harry. And so that means that, because he is so powerful right now with Republicans, and Republicans like what he's doing, it's going to be really, really, really hard for Republicans in the House who want to get reelected to go against him. So I think ultimately a lot of these votes will fold like a cheap suit. And I heard a story that told secondhand from Trump that said, I was talking to him about this, and when you call these people, what kind of response are you getting? When you call somebody, he said, I'm against the big, beautiful bill. He said, it's funny because he said, the president reportedly said that, what happens is I'll call him and I'll say, Mr. President, I'm with you 1,000%. I'll be there for you. You don't need to worry. And he said, well, I was calling because I thought you weren't going to vote for the bill. Oh, no, I'm going to vote for the bill. Well, sometimes they just want to be contacted. Sometimes they just want to be courted a little bit. Ego and all that. So, I think ultimately that they're going to find the bills. Trump is going to get them into a room today and start twisting elbows and see what happens. But, he would love to have this bill on his desk in time for the 4th of July. To sign this on the 4th of July will be huge. So I think ultimately we'll get there. But I must say to you, as it stands right now, I don't think we are there. I don't think that Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, has the votes. From the Wall Street Journal, House Republicans threaten to sink Trump's mega bill. House Republicans already lining up to oppose President Trump's big, beautiful bill. A number of House Republicans vowing to oppose the Senate version, enough to block the bill's passage, failing a last-minute scramble to negotiate with holdouts and a successful pressure campaign by the president. Only 3 House Republicans need to join the Democrats to sink the bill. Ralph Norman, Republican of South Carolina, member of the conservative House Freedom Caucus, told reporters about an hour after the Senate bill's passage Tuesday he wouldn't vote for the president's tax bill out of the House Rules Committee. You got others as well. Chip Roy, he's not going to vote for it. But again, that's before the president starts to twist elbows. A very powerful and popular president in Republican circles is going to start twisting elbows, and you watch how many people do that. Yesterday, by the way, did you see this low-class move by Chuck Schumer? The bill is coming up for final reading, and at the very last minute, very last second before that vote was taken, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer made a motion to strike the name of the bill and take it down, because he did not want Democrats to have to talk about the big, beautiful bill, which was what its name was. So, in a very low cast, and I would say and by the way, the look on his face when he did it, I saw this in real time. I was watching him. He looked up at the cameras and just sort of grinned, this evil grin, like, you may pass it, but you're not going to be able to call it the big, beautiful bill. I'm going to change it. Of course, they'll still call it the big, beautiful bill. But isn't that something? Isn't that petty? Trump White House withholding billions in state education funding. As long as we're talking about things going in the swamp, Trump administration said it'll be withholding billions in federal dollars. More on that in just a moment. Right now, 21 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The verdict is in now on the Sean Diddy Combs trial, and we'll have the latest for you. Also, why the weather may be a bit of a headache for holiday travelers this week. Those stories coming up here at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yeah, I'm not going to give away what you were teasing there, but I mean they do have a verdict in the Sean Diddy Combs. What is it? Sean Diddy Puffy Daddy Combs.
Right. There's too many names.
He's got way too many names. But see, you'll have the details. Not a good day for Sean Combs. Let's put it that way. Okay, so we were talking a little bit about the swamp and things going on. Very quickly, the FBI is moving to a new headquarters. Joan, I know when all the years that you were in D.C.,
Yeah.
I think I arrived in D.C. in 1986. And they were talking about needing to change out the Hoover building even then.
I know. It's been forever.
Yeah, well, it's going to be in Maryland. No, it's going to be in Virginia. No, it's going to be here. They're going to rebuild it, and they kept messing with it, and they never did move.
They did the same thing with the football stadium.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, they can never make decisions.
But apparently they are moving. They selected a new headquarters building in D.C., and they're leaving the J. Edgar Hoover building and going to another building, which apparently they say is in better shape. The Ronald Reagan building is where they're going. Anyway, so the FBI finally gets its new home after, a lot of years of conversation. Speaking of the FBI, we're getting some details about the old FBI under Biden. A top Republican senator released FBI emails Tuesday appearing to show the Bureau did not pursue intelligence, indicating that Communist China was looking to hijack the 2020 presidential election with the potential mail-in ballot scheme to assist then-Democrat nominee Joe Biden. The Bureau appeared, based on the emails, they appeared afraid that it would undercut then FBI Director Christopher Wray's assurances to Congress that foreign meddling did not pose a threat. He'd said that in testimony. They didn't want to counter him. The internal FBI emails made public by Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley, revealing that the FBI suppressed intelligence of alleged Chinese interference in the 2020 elections to insulate then FBI Director Wray from criticism. This is from Just the News, and they've got all the details about that, but I'm telling you, this is pretty damning stuff that looks into what the Chinese were doing, not reliable allies by any stretch of the imagination. Definitely our adversaries on the world stage, trying to have an impact on the presidential election. Some would argue they did. They did. Right now, time for the news. We got big verdict out of New York City. Joan Jones has the details on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning, 9:30. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. And happening just moments ago, rap mogul Sean Diddy Combs found guilty on 2 of the 5 charges against him. CB Cotton at Fox News has been reporting on this court case.
He has been found not guilty on the most serious charge, racketeering conspiracy. He's been found not guilty on count 2 and count 4. Those are the sex trafficking counts. The only counts he has been found guilty of are the transportation to engage in prostitution. And I want to say that comes with a possible prison sentence of 10 years in prison.
Now, it is 2 charges of transportation to engage in prostitution that he was found guilty of. One charge for his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, the woman that you've seen on hotel video being beaten and kicked by Sean Diddy Combs, and the other charge of transportation to engage in prostitution related to another girlfriend who was just named Jane on the witness stand. Now, we will have more on this. Oh, and by the way, it's really not clear if it's 10 years per charge or 10 years altogether that he would be facing in prison for those charges he was found guilty of. More on this as it becomes clear. It's just a breaking story at this point this morning. In other news, President Trump's big big, beautiful budget bill has now left the Senate. It's made its way over to the House, and that's where Speaker Mike Johnson says he hopes to hold a final vote by Thursday, but not everyone's on board with the plan.
Over in the House, several Republicans already signaling they won't support it. The president threatening them to get with it.
What's your message to the Republicans that are not yet on board?
I think it would be very wise for them to get on board.
So later this morning, the House does come into session. They will debate this bill before taking a procedural test vote. If that then passes, that cues more debate before getting to final passage.
That's ABC senior political correspondent Rachel Scott. And more than 72 million Americans will travel for this 4th of July holiday. ABC's Stephanie Ramos, though, says some of the flights have been grounded by severe weather from coast to coast.
In the skies, chaos across the country with almost 2,000 flight cancellations. New York and D.C. area airports hit the hardest. In Las Vegas, severe dust storms blanketing Harry Reid International Airport, grounding several planes.
It was the sandstorm version of a snowstorm whiteout.
David Yezel caught in the storm. After the dust cleared, his American Airlines flight to Charlotte was forced to turn around after reports of an odor in the cabin.
And once again, our breaking story this morning, Sean Diddy Combs has been found guilty on 2 charges this morning, but not the most serious one. That's the one of racketeering. We'll stay on top of the story, bring you the latest. That is the latest news. Weather is up next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
It's 38 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, filling in for Chris Hand, who will be filling in for Matt Murphy this afternoon. Chad Benson coming up at noon. A lot of things going on. As you heard in the newscast, we have a verdict in the Sean Combs trial. There were 5 charges against him. He was convicted on the 2 lesser charges, which were basically transportation, prostitution charges. But the conspiracy charges, basically, they have found them not guilty of those more serious charges. Still possible that he could do maybe 10 years in jail, out with good behavior. But we're getting more details on that. And that's happening at
one of those details is that, he's been held for 9 months prior to this trial. So that time that he has spent in jail may count toward his prison time as well.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so count 1, racketeering, not guilty. Count 2, sex trafficking by force, not guilty. Count 4, sex trafficking by force again, not guilty. He was basically found guilty on count 3 and 5. 3 is transportation to engage in prostitution, and count 5 is the same thing. So 2 counts of engaging in prostitution, and to have his freak-offs. To be honest with you, I haven't paid a bit of attention to this trial because I just don't care. I'm glad that justice has prevailed and that the courts have ruled their verdict. But I just honestly, I can't get up a lot of interest in that particular story. But there we go. Let's see. We're watching a couple of other things. I want to mention that Representative John Rose will be our special guest at 10:05 this morning. Why is that important? Well, because right now, on the floor of the House, they're taking a vote on the rule. And right now, the rule is not winning. Now, as I explained, before you pass the big, beautiful bill, you got to pass the big, beautiful bill rule out of Rules Committee. And then that's always the first vote is the rule, and then the second vote is the measure. Well, they're voting on the rule right now, and as it stands, 202 Republican votes, 210 Democrat votes. Between there's about 18 Republicans who have not yet voted. Some people may be having a hard time getting to Washington. We're told that a lot of flights got canceled, and horror of horror, some members of Congress had to actually get in their car on the East Coast and drive to Washington. But they don't have the rule passed as yet. And against the backdrop of all that, we understand that some of the people who are holding out and have concerns about the big, beautiful bill are going to be in a meeting with the President of the United States, where I'm certain there'll be some elbows twisted. We'll see what happens. Honestly, do you want to be the Republican who caused everybody to get a 68% increase in taxes? I don't think so. And I think what everybody's looking for is, to get one little last thing that's important to them and then move on. And so, there's a lot of wheeling and dealing that's going on. And a lot of this is being done behind back rooms, whatever, look at what do you need to get on board with this thing, and I'll see what I can do. So there's a lot of horse trading going on right now. But as it stands, I don't think they've got the votes. I expect that by the time they call the vote, miraculously, everything will fall into line. We should do this. We haven't done this in a while. We haven't done the woke world.
It's a woke world.
It is a woke world,
It's a woke world after all. It's a woke world after all. It's a woke world.
Yeah, I know that'll be in your head. Oh, the children aren't done singing yet. Hang on.
I thought I got away from this last time.
I don't know. Trans UPenn swimmer Leah Thomas will be stripped of titles after the university has bent the knee to the Trump administration. Transgender swimming champion Leah Thomas will be stripped of University of Pennsylvania swimming titles after the Ivy League school bowed to pressure from the Trump administration. The university will also issue formal apologies to every biological female competitor who lost out to a transgender competitor following an investigation by the Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights. The probe found that UPenn violated Title IX by allowing males to compete in female athletic programs and occupy female-only intimate facilities. So UPenn has blinked and has backed down 1,000%. Today's resolution with UPenn is yet another example of the Trump effect in action. Thanks to the leadership of President Trump, UPenn has agreed to both apologize for its past Title IX violations and to ensure that women's sports are protected by the university for future generations of female athletes. This, according to Secretary of Education Linda McMahon, in a statement. The resolution agreement signed by the university will require it to undertake a host of additional actions, including adopting biology-based definitions of male and female under Title IX, issuing a public statement that will no longer allow biological men to compete in female athletic programs, or occupy women-only locker rooms. Cheered by athletes who were impacted by the inclusion of trans athletes in women's sports in recent years. I mean, another victory for the Trump administration. Huge deal. Riley Gaines, man, I mean, she's got to be thrilled about this, finally. It's all come to, to a conclusion. So there. As long as we're doing other news that is woke news. Many cities around the country, blue mayors, blue councils, like Nashville. Nashville, an island of blue surrounded by an ocean of red. There are a lot of major metropolitan areas. Austin is like this. There's a bunch of others. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy sent a letter Tuesday to the 50 state governors, urging them to remove distractions from roads, including divisive and distracting political message like the rainbow crosswalks. Roads are for safety, not political messages or artwork, Duffy said in a statement. Today, I'm calling on governors in every state to ensure that roadways, intersections, and crosswalks are kept free from distractions. Far too many Americans each year die to traffic fatalities to take our eye off the ball. The letter first provided to the Daily Signal. Duffy asked governors to ensure that their states take part in the Federal Highway Administration's Safe Arterials for Everyone through reliable operations and distraction reducing strategies, or that is the Safe Roads Initiative. Boy, they go a long way to get their acronyms, don't they? The letter went to the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the governor of Puerto Rico, in addition to all state governors. Duffy asked that within 60 days of each state's Department of Transportation develop a list of arterial segments, including intersections with the highest safety, operational, or compliance concerns that will be addressed by the end of fiscal year 2026. I mean, honestly, huge things are happening each and every day. And the Trump administration is pushing back, and people are bowing and scraping. Let me just give you another one. It's not really a woke case, but another example of Trump winning. Have you heard about this? The CBS Paramount is apparently going to pay Donald Trump to settle a lawsuit that he brought against CBS News and 60 Minutes. Now, this all has to do with that interview that 60 Minutes did with Kamala Harris back during the campaign, when they basically changed one of her really screwy answers and cleaned her up and took out the bad answer and put in a good answer, making her look smarter when she really had flailed. In other words, they wanted to help her. And so what they did was they took out a soundbite where she was spouting that nonsensical garbage that doesn't make any sense, the word salad stuff. So they took that out and put another answer. They asked her the question again, got a better answer, and stuck that in there, and that's what they put out there. And Trump's argument was this was basically CBS working to help the campaign of Kamala Harris, to support her nomination, which is not what news media ought to be doing. And so Donald Trump was going to bring a lawsuit against them, and the lawsuit was, I think, for $30 million or so. Now comes word that CBS has blinked. I mean, everybody's blinking. Let me just go through 3 blinks right now. Canada. Canada was having really tough negotiations, and basically Trump said, well, we can't have any conversations as long as you have this measure, this digital tax measure, in your proposal. Canada took it down so they could get back to the table. They blinked. You got the University of Pennsylvania with Leah Thomas, basically saying that everything they did with her as a biological male swimming against women was wrong, and they have admitted so and will apologize. Will apologize and strip them. They'll never do this again. Change all the records back to the way they should have been. University of Pennsylvania has blinked. CBS News, I mean, boy, in the newsrooms at CBS, they don't want this settlement. They want to fight it out. They're apoplectic, the reporters and the editorial staff of CBS News, very upset about this decision. But again, CBS News has looked at it and has blinked. Donald Trump knows how to negotiate, folks. He knows how to negotiate. He knows what he's doing in this regard. And he's been having victory after victory after victory. Last week was an amazing run. The last 6 months have been just totally annihilating the Democrats. And now this week, even though it's a short holiday week, he's already winning and winning and winning. And he may well have his big, beautiful bill on his desk before we get to the 4th of July. Not there yet, but, it looks like it will get there. You're crossing your fingers. On that note, it is 50 minutes past the hour. Brian Wilson in for Chris Hand on the Chris Hand Show. Ty, we're going to be back in just a moment after some commercial messages.
The holdouts in the House are already making themselves known, and what we have learned about the Sean Diddy Combs verdicts today, coming up here at 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, Joan Jones in the news closet over there getting everything done. Mason Fleming is in the control room pushing all the blinky buttons, doing all that kind of stuff. So we're good to have everybody there. Representative John Rose will join us at the top of the hour after the news to talk about what's going on in the House of Representatives, where the rule, they're voting on the rule right now, Joan, and it's 211 to 211.
Oh, boy.
9 Republicans have not yet voted, and 1 Democrat has not yet voted, so 10 votes still out there.
Okay.
So I think they'll probably get it across the board. I think some of this is people getting to the Capitol late because the flight had been delayed. I think some of it is that they're sending a message, and those negotiations are ongoing. The president going to meet with holdouts a little bit later here this morning. I think it's going to move off, but it's going to be really close. It always is. In this situation, and it'll be interesting to see if they can get it across the goal line. We'll be talking about that. 4th of July is on the horizon. Fireworks, food trucks, all kinds of stuff going on. I mean, a good place to go. If you're looking for a place to go, they got fireworks going on. Let's see, 11 and 5 p.m. Starts there. They'll have to begin their celebration there. Gates open at 4. Mount Juliet's got a thing going on. Watertown, we got our squirt gun parade. That's where I'm going to be. Out there, starts at the Round Lick Baptist Church, just up the street. Murfreesboro, 1500 Medical Center Parkway, Friday, July 4th. Live music and picnicking starts at 4:30. Concert at 7:30. Fireworks about 9. About everywhere, it's going to be around 9 o'clock for the fireworks. Franklin, fireworks at 9. Gates open at 5. Gallatin. City fireworks will begin at 5 p.m. with food trucks, and the fireworks again will be just about dark 30, about 9. Greenbrier, same thing. Parade begins at 10. Hendersonville, the festival at the Freedom Festival will start at about 5 p.m. on July 3rd. Interesting. White House, Goodlettsville. I mean, everybody's got a little thing going on. We're going to be out there getting squirted at the squirt gun parade. And by the way, I got word. I was talking yesterday to Chris Hand. He's going to bring his whole clan to the squirt gun parade. Then they're coming over to fill up my pool. They can just bring a squirt gun and fill it up, and then if they splash any out, they will have already done the thing. So yeah, it's going to be, and the weather is going to be spectacular. I was just looking at the forecast for Nashville. Let me pull this up real quick. I don't really want that. I want this. Here's my forecast. In Nashville today, 87 and abundant sunshine. Thursday, 87, abundant sunshine. Friday, which is the 4th of July, 90 degrees, abundant sunshine, not a cloud in the sky. Saturday should be pretty nice, 93. And only partly cloudy and 91 on Sunday. So a great weekend for those who are going to go out and celebrate freedom. And on Independence Day, let's remember, we call it the 4th of July. It's Independence Day, the original No Kings holiday. Time for the news now at 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Good morning, 10 o'clock. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. We've got a couple of accidents this morning. Belshire on Dickerson Pike at Briley Parkway. Watch for that one. Another in Green Hills. This one's on Hillsborough Pike at Golf Club Lane. In the news, the House of Representatives taking up President Trump's big, beautiful bill this morning after the House Rules Committee voted overnight to advance the measure. But in a hint about how it might go here, GOP Congressman Ralph Norman and Chip Roy both joined Democrats on that panel, on the House Rules Committee panel, to oppose advancing the rule. Meantime, House Majority Leader Steve Scalise is warning House members should not try to change the bill as leaders aim for final passage, saying it could be what collapses the entire thing. Those are his words. Also, President Trump posting on Truth Social just moments ago that he has finalized a trade deal with Vietnam. This comes less than a week before a 90-day pause on many of his reciprocal tariffs was set to expire. Now, the trade deficit with Vietnam was over $123 billion. We're waiting to hear details about how this new deal is going to be structured later on today. The New York City court has adjourned in Sean Combs' trial after he was acquitted on 3 charges and convicted on 2 others. Most notably, he was acquitted on count 1. That was the racketeering conspiracy charge that would have landed the music mogul in prison for 20 years. NBC's Chloe Mela says the jury didn't buy the victim claims by at least 2 of the women who testified against him.
Here you go. You have Cassie Ventura and Jane on multiple occasions consenting, it appears, to these freak-offs, even going so far as to set up some of these freak-offs on their own accord.
Now, the 2 charges he was found guilty of are 2 transportations to engage in prostitution charges. They carry a maximum of 10 years in prison. 6 of Diddy's children were in the courtroom hearing the lewd details of his sex life. And for that verdict reading today. Heads up about a big policing effort over the weekend. Tennessee Highway Patrol is joining several agencies, adding extra patrols along the entire stretch of Highway 70.
You know, the new vehicles today, they have Bluetooth. There's no reason that, you should put a phone to your ear. You can speak text, things of that nature to reduce distracted driving. But people still do it.
That trooper speaking to Channel 4. They'll also be looking for drunk drivers, speeders, and aggressive drivers. Now, those extra patrols out there tomorrow at noon, and they'll be there through midnight on Sunday. And the B-2 bomber pilots who flew across the world to obliterate Iran's nuclear facilities, they're headed to the White House for the 4th of July. President Trump saying that the courageous pilots will be his guests of honor during the big celebration in Washington, D.C. That is the latest news. Weather's up next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
It is 6 minutes past the hour of 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. I'm filling in for Chris Hand. Chris Hand will be in for Matt Murphy later today. It's just musical chairs around this place. I don't know what to tell you. As we head into the 4th of July weekend, and in the House of Representatives, debate has begun on the rule for the big, beautiful bill. And joining us on the Newsmaker hotline to try to understand what's going on in Washington and how this thing may play out today in the House of Representatives, so much on the line, is Representative John Rose. Congressman, good to have you on the program. Happy 4th of July to you.
Yes, Brian, thanks for having me on the show today.
All right, listen, we need to know where we are because, as we arose this morning, the word that was out there was that the House did not have the votes to pass the measure that was sent to them by the Senate, the one big, beautiful bill, but they did get the rule passed, and they're now beginning that debate. So where do things stand?
Well, the vote we just took was not the rule. It was a procedural motion that the Democrats threw up to kind of try to throw a monkey in the wrench. But so we're back to debate on the rule, and that vote will come here in about an hour or so.
And it's expected the rule will pass.
Well, I don't know if we know the answer to that. We've obviously got some House members that are, dissatisfied with some of the provisions coming back from the Senate, but I know there's a lot of persuasion and talk going on, and so we'll see, I guess, when we get to that vote, if we have the votes to get the rule passed and move on to debate on the bill itself.
Well, where are you on it?
I am planning at present to vote yes. We're still studying the specifics of the bill, and I will say, there are some things not to be happy about, but we have to keep in mind that the one big beautiful bill still represents the biggest tax cut in American history for working and middle-class Americans, provides, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, tax relief to seniors, gives the president the money he needs to finish the job of securing the southern border and, enhancing the effort to deport criminal illegals that are in the country and a host of other things, shoring up the farm safety net and providing tax relief to people who purchase an American-made car. So there's just a lot in this bill. And really, then to top all that off, this is going to represent the biggest single cut in future government spending in history. And so when you take all that together, I think this passes what I would call the Reagan standard of, there's a lot good here, more good than bad, substantially. And so I think on balance, this is a good bill and a good positive step forward.
Well, I mean, one of the things that, you learn, I guess, when you've been around that institution a lot is that there's never a perfect bill, right?
That's right. And if you're looking for perfect, this is the wrong business to be in. And so we're making a giant step in the right direction, $1.7 trillion in mandatory savings. It's a good first step. For goodness sakes, we're 37 trillion in debt. And, you can't turn this thing around in one fell swoop. So this is a good beginning, and there'll be more to come.
All right. So there we have that. So we'll wait to see how it all plays out. The president is said to be ready to twist arms and to meeting with a bunch of the holdouts. Honestly, does any Republican want to be the Republican that's responsible for a 68% increase in taxes?
I certainly don't, and I think you make a very good point. If we don't pass this, then January 1st we'll see the largest tax increase in American history, and I don't think Republicans want to see that. If you look at the polling data, the vast majority of working Americans support this legislation, and I've been visiting with people back in Tennessee, lots of business owners and individuals, even met with some waiters at a restaurant recently talking about the no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and there's widespread support for this. So I think while there is some things that are not perfect, this is a bill that we need to pass. And I think, we need to get it done now, too. And I think this is important to note, Brian. If we get it done now, it will send a signal to American businesses that they can be certain about the tax treatment that they're going to face in the coming year. And they can get started. And I think it'll be a real boon to the American economy. And that's one of the real purposes of this bill, is if we can supercharge the growth of GDP in this country, then that will go a long way toward helping us grow the economy. That'll grow tax revenues, and that'll help to reduce the deficit further from what is even anticipated here. Even the Congressional Budget Office says this is a $1.7 trillion in deficit cut or savings from what would be spent. So, and as you know, historically, the CBO always is cautious in their estimates. So if we achieve that GDP growth, which I think will come with providing the certainty to American businesses, will be headed in the right direction.
Well, one of the things that comes out of this vote is you can pretty much count that there are not going to be any Democrat votes for this one big, beautiful bill. It's going to be all Democrats against it. But then that gives you a pretty good campaign issue, doesn't it? Because you can actually say that by voting against this measure, they are voting in favor of higher taxes. I mean, there's that 30-second ad right there. The congressman so-and-so was against the bill and was in favor of raising your taxes. And nobody wants to have that as the campaign ad.
Essentially a vote for the largest tax increase in American history. And the Democrats in the House have already all voted for that once, and they're going to do it again. And I think it will be tough for them to defend. And they're trying to paint this picture of that the sky is falling. And when the sky doesn't fall, when working Americans see more money in their pockets, and a family of four in Tennessee sees $11,000 plus per year in their pocket as a result of this, I think then the message will be strong and clear and should be, I think positive for Republicans going forward. And I think if we get this done now, and I think this is the key difference between now and 2017. In 2017, Republicans waited too long to get this done. We're going to get this done at the mid-year mark, which means there'll be time for this to hit the economy before folks start thinking about how they're going to vote next year.
Yeah, and I'd like to talk about that a little bit because it is just the first 6 months of this administration. I mean, actually less than 6 months because he came in on the 20th of January. So we're less than 6 months he's been there, and remarkable things have been accomplished. But if you wait too much longer, it becomes, people start focusing on the midterms. It becomes very difficult to pass major things, right?
That's absolutely correct. And so I think getting it done now, I think that's why the president smartly called on us to get this done by July 4th. And hopefully we can close ranks here today and get this done, put this on the president's desk. And then I think by any estimation, this president will be off to the fastest start of any president in modern history.
Yeah, it is really remarkable. To talk for a moment about, what we have seen in the first 5.5 months of this administration, and more specifically, just the last, 10 days has been remarkable, the things that have been accomplished in Washington by this administration.
Absolutely. The recent Supreme Court ruling that the president, brought about by taking on the question of birthright citizenship and the restriction on federal courts issuing nationwide injunctions. I think that's huge, just huge, because the liberals were using these liberal judges as a way of causing the president's agenda to be delayed. We saw them do that in his first term, and now that ends, and so the president's policies go into place more quickly. I think you see that with, the recent announcement in the LGBTQ space of reversing the horrible policies of rewarding men who compete in women's sports. And then I think the real masterclass is just what the president has done with the border. To see that zero, that big goose egg for May of the number of people released into this country. I mean, is there a more stark example of leadership on display? This president brings the number of catch and release to zero from 62,000 a year ago. The contrast between him and the former president, who said he couldn't do anything without Congress taking action, and the president did that on his own. And so I think just really underscores the effectiveness. And then securing an agreement from our NATO allies to dramatically increase their spending on national defense. The issue that the president has dealt with vis-a-vis Iran and their quest to get nuclear weapons, I think it's really been quite a 5 or 5.5 month period.
What do you think about the city of Nashville, Davidson County, the mayor, and all of the fights that he's having about immigration issues? Do you think there's a violation of the law there? I mean, Andy Ogle certainly does.
Well, I don't know of a violation of the law, but certainly there's a violation of the faith that the people put in their local officials when they're trying to play the part of foil with respect to the enforcement of our federal immigration laws. My view is that our local officials should be doing everything they can to help enforce the Constitution and the laws of this country, and they should not be playing with this very dangerously of putting out the names of federal officials and really trying to be a hindrance to the enforcement of the law. So we need every community in Tennessee to be on board and pushing in the right direction. And I don't think we should tolerate that. And I would encourage the mayor to change policies there, quit getting in the way of our federal officials. And, I would look to some of our other officials across the state who are actually rolling up their sleeves to help the federal government to enforce our immigration laws. And I was just visiting with some sheriffs and district attorneys yesterday, and they were telling me the dramatic impact that they've already seen with the availability of fentanyl, and the number of overdoses happening has dropped dramatically just in recent months across Tennessee. And, just further evidence that when you get the border under control, there are a lot of side benefits to that.
And on all this, there is an attempt right now to look back at the Biden administration and some of the things that they were doing and the use of the auto pen and all of that. Where do you stand on all of that? And do you think that there were people who were not basically, who was the president during that time period is sort of a looming question.
Absolutely. And I get that question and got that question throughout the Biden presidency, because I think common sense Tennesseans were able to look and see that this president, the former president, President Biden, was not actually equipped to do the job. And now we've seen evidence that that's actually true. We want to keep looking forward and taking care of business. But I do think because of what we saw happen there, and because some of those actions might possibly need to be undone if the president wasn't really making the decisions. And, so I think from the standpoint of safeguarding the office of the presidency going forward, and frankly holding folks accountable who may have been involved in that, and frankly then pointing out the wholesale failure of the press to call attention to what they knew was happening in the White House, I think for those reasons we're obligated to take a look at that closely and dig into the question of who was actually signing for the president, who was making those decisions. Was the president even aware of some of the decisions that were being made, in his name and for which his signature was being applied? And so I think we have to pursue that. I wish we didn't have to, but I think we owe it to the country and to the people to get to the bottom of that question.
Time running down. Congressman John Rose is our guest. Very quickly, you also have made it known that you'd like to be the next governor of this state. How's that going?
Well, going very well. I announced back on March 20th. At the time, it was, you might say, a little on the early side. Now it's on the late side. In the last two gubernatorial elections, the top two finishers were in the race by this point. So as Yogi Berra would say, it's getting late early. And so we're doing, we've been to all 95 counties, visiting with folks all across Tennessee, getting ready to report a really strong campaign finance report. And I think we make it hard for those who are having a hard time making up their mind what they want to do with their future. We're going to give them some encouragement to say, get off their butt and decide what they're going to do.
Who might you be talking about there, Congressman?
Oh, well, I know there are a lot of people thinking about it, and, I'm looking forward to a vigorous campaign, and, we're just reaching out and finding out what Tennesseans want for the future of Tennessee.
All right. There you have it. Congressman John Rose, greatly appreciate it. Big day in the House of Representatives. We appreciate you taking time out to be with us.
Thank you very much, Brian. I appreciate you having me on the show.
All right. It is 20 minutes now past the hour of 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Back in a moment.
The Sean Diddy Combs verdict has been reached, and now it's up to a judge whether he'll be released on bail. Also, we'll take a look at a potential ceasefire deal in Gaza. That and more coming up at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 25 minutes past the hour of 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. This is a big day in Washington where we're watching the House of Representatives and whether or not Republicans can get their act together and pass this bill. Look, there are those who will look at this bill, and you can always quibble and find something you don't like. The Senate is somewhat constricted on the things that it can get through because of the process and something known as the Byrd Rule. The Byrd Rule says that it has to be, what's the word I'm looking for here? It has to be, connected. It has to be, sort of directly related to budget. And a lot of the other stuff that they tried to put in the bill had got stripped out by the secretary, what do you call it? The parliamentarian of the Senate. And so she stripped it out, said you can't consider it. So it comes back to the House, and it's lighter than it was when it went to the Senate. And now it's got to be passed. This version that came from the Senate's got to be passed by the House. And there's about 10 people who say they're not sure they can vote for it. Right now, we're in the process of debating the rule that will likely pass, which would allow it to go to final passage. But a lot of people will vote for the rule just to get the thing up for debate. But it is entirely possible that by the end of the day, we could have the big, beautiful bill on its way to the president's desk. Ultimately, I believe that when people look at this bill, there's not going to be many Republicans who want the wrath of the Republican Party, where they find, Donald Trump among Republicans, 92% very favorable or favorable. So why would you want to buck a president that's more popular than Ronald Reagan was in his second term? So why would you want to go against a president on that? And why would you want to be the Republican who caused taxes to go up by, a tremendous amount? So I don't think anybody wants to be that person. And so I think ultimately everybody will get in line. They're going to try to get what they can out of the deal. They may have real problems and think that there are not enough cuts here. But I got to tell you, if nobody looks at this bill as being anything close to perfect, but there is a lot more good than there is bad here. And I think if you couple this with maybe a looming drop in the interest rates, this economy is just going to explode. It's just going to go crazy. And you're going to see things really start to stand up, the economy really start to stand up on its tippy toes, and that is good news for you and me. A good, strong economy means that there's good work to be had. The economy is strong. People are spending money. When they spend money, they create opportunity for other people. I mean, I just think that if you get the big, beautiful bill, and then maybe down the line you can get a drop in the interest rates, man, it's just going to explode. It's going to be huge. Already, many of the naysayers who say, oh, it's going to, what Trump is doing is going to destroy the economy. Well, it hasn't happened yet. It just hasn't happened. So I think we're headed in the right direction. I think it will happen, but we're going to have to watch it pretty closely here throughout the morning and into the afternoon as they debate the final passage of the big, beautiful bill. Yeah, look, it's remarkable. If he gets this across, it will be the culmination of one of the best 6-month runs I've ever seen in American politics. Just from getting elected in a sort of a landslide to taking the reins, coming in with a team, getting your team in place, and starting to accomplish all these things in less than 6 months. Remarkable. He wasn't this good in the first term. He learned a lot from the mistakes that occurred in the early going of the first term. And he's not making the same mistakes twice. Right now, time for the news. with Joan Jones at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Joan Jones now with your top story. Sean Diddy Combs has been acquitted on the most serious charges against him. Combs had been facing racketeering and sex trafficking, but the jury in a New York courtroom only found him guilty of prostitution-related crimes. Those convictions carry a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison. We get more from ABC's Aaron Katursky.
The government and defense attorneys are asking for a period of hours so they can write letters, make their arguments on both sides. So it could be quite a while before the judge decides whether Sean Combs deserves to be released on bail. The government is making the case that he still faces up to 20 years in prison after his conviction.
Now, the women that Combs was accused of trafficking were also his longtime girlfriends. Cassie Ventura with him for 11 years. Jane was with him for more than 3. The defense argued that those were consensual relationships. President Trump saying that the U.S. and Israel has brokered a deal to stop the fighting in Gaza for 60 days. And he's waiting for Hamas's response now. The deal would also allow for the release of more hostages.
A lot of our attention should be on Cairo. That is where Hamas officials are meeting with the Egyptians and the Qataris, mediators in all of this. And I think we can assume that for Hamas, what they need to look at now is whether or not there are basically enough guarantees in this proposal on the table right now that would turn a 60-day ceasefire into a permanent truce.
That's ABC's Tom Sufi Burridge in Tel Aviv. Happening in the next 30 minutes right here in Nashville, Tennessee lawmaker Justin Jones is holding a press conference. He's announcing legislation that he has just introduced. It's called the Stop American Gestapo Act. It would require law enforcement officers, and this, by the way, is targeted at ICE agents, to bare their faces, no more masks, while they're in uniform. That is the latest news. We've got your weather up ahead. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
It's 37 minutes now past the hour of 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. I saw this story and I immediately thought, sounds like a movie. Remember that movie, Snakes on the Plane? An Australian domestic flight delayed for 2 hours after a stowaway snake was found in the private cargo hold, officials said on Wednesday. It was found aboard a Virgin Australia flight to Melbourne, at Melbourne Airport, bound for Brisbane. There was a snake on the plane.
I have had it with these monkey fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday plane.
I don't want to cut you off. I needed you to get that full story out there.
I know. I mean, what do you do when you have a snake on the plane? See, that's what you're cute to do.
I have had it with these monkey fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday plane.
Turns out, though, it wasn't venomous. You know, the most venomous snakes in the world are in Australia.
Oh, yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why I'm not really wild about. I mean, I want to go to Australia, but I mean, there are a lot of things that can kill you in Australia.
Yeah, I was like, I think most, even like a little fly could probably kick you through a wall if you tempt it hard enough.
So they finally got the snake. He was hidden behind a panel. Could have disappeared deeper into the plane, and that would have taken the plane completely out of service. But they were able to capture the harmless green snake and get on their way. One thing you don't want, Mason, is a snake on your plane.
I have had it with these monkey fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday plane.
Yeah. Well, we wore that out. It is, we're heading into the 4th of July weekend. I don't know if you know it, both Thursday and Friday for us are company holidays. So, I'm going to be done today and I won't be back until the next time I fill in. I think Matt Murphy will be back by then, so everybody will be in their proper space with a bright, shiny face come Monday. But, look, I love the 4th of July. I love Independence Day celebrations. I love to celebrate the great country, this country of exceptional country. But you know what? I'm just shocked, stunned, and amazed at how many Americans no longer have a great deal of pride in their country. New Gallup poll shows a sharp decline in national pride among Democrats, with just 36% of them describing themselves as extremely or very proud to be an American. The lowest level recorded for the party in the past quarter century. In 2024, 62% of the Democrats said that they were extremely or very proud of their country. According to Gallup, the decrease in Democrat pride has contributed to an overcline in national pride across the board, now at a record low of 58. 58% of Americans, all Americans, now say that they are proud, extremely or very proud to be an American. Wow, just shocking. Let's break it down a little bit. Gallup notes, and Gallup, by the way, say what you will, they're the gold standard in polling. Gallup noted that Democrats' current level of pride is even lower than it was in 2020 when it dipped to 42%. The figure had climbed substantially to 62% following the inauguration of Joe Biden, remained above 50% for most of his term among Democrats. The last time over 80% of Democrats reported strong national pride was under Barack Obama. So listen, independents have registered a notable drop in national pride, according to the survey. 53% of independents said they are extremely or very proud to be an American, but that is down somewhat from 64% in 2024. Generational data from the poll reveals the patriotism declines with age. Younger Americans just don't have a very passionate feeling about this country. Generation Z reported the lowest levels of national pride. Only 41% say they're extremely proud to be an American. 58% of millennials, 71% of Generation X, and 75% of the boomers expressed the same level of pride. So as you get younger, there is less appreciation for this country. You know why? I think I understand why. I think that, the Democrats were successful for a period of time, and it's coming back now. The pendulum's swinging the other way now. But for the longest time, Democrats were extremely successful in getting socialist and liberal ideas and crazy stuff into the classroom. And I think it indoctrinated a lot of these kids who haven't gotten out in the real world and earned a living and know what it is to pay taxes. I think they will in time become patriotic as they come to appreciate, but they just can't. They have, I think, been indoctrinated. I think that's what's going on here. I really believe it. So the 2025 figures mark the lowest overall national pride recorded during the period. They've been doing this for about 24 years, asking this question about, are you proud to be an American? I'm proud to be an American. I mean, I love this country, and I love the American exceptionalism and this wonderful system and government that was put in place by our founding fathers. It's just, to me, even in times when I don't agree with who's the president or I don't agree with the policies that are being promulgated, I'm still proud to be an American, but not for the Democrats. It seems like, when Donald Trump becomes president, automatically that ruins it for them, for a great number of them. Great interesting story here about Fox News and MAGA hats and cookies inside of Trump's West Wing. This story, I think, appeared in NBC on their website, but I thought it was interesting because it showed a lot about what goes on behind the scenes. I mean, people say, what's it really like in the West Wing? Well, even reporters who work there don't know for sure. The military leaders who came to the Oval Office to discuss the new F-47 stealth fighter had a few surprises in store. At one point in their sit-down with President Donald Trump, Mark Zuckerberg, the Meta chief executive, walked in unexpectedly. Worried that he didn't have the security clearance, officials asked the social media magnate to wait outside, said two people familiar with the meeting. A young aide also came in during the meeting, showed the president something on her laptop and computer, and left. And Trump's cell phone rang a couple of times. Expecting more privacy in the meeting with the commander-in-chief, some officials came away mystified and a bit unnerved. They quietly discussed among themselves whether the visitors and the calls might have compromised sensitive information, with one asking whether they should be concerned about spillage. Trump affectionately refers to the Oval Office as Grand Central Terminal because of all the comings and goings. But some Democrats and other people they say, well, it's a little chaotic. I think this president thrives on chaos. I mean, let's be honest with you. As somebody who has struggled with attention deficit disorder all of his life, I've never been officially diagnosed, but I'm pretty sure when I read the discussions of what ADHD is, I'm pretty sure that was me. It's gotten better as I got older, but it certainly was a problem when I was young. But I think there's a little bit of that in Trump, and I think he likes having a bunch of balls in the air at the same time. And I think he loves and he thrives upon that kind of chaos. And I think it's also interesting. I mean, this is written by NBC, so they're not going to have a good spin on it. But I think it's interesting that he has so many people coming in and being involved and input. I think that's what you want. He loves to pick up the phone and talk to people. Trump will interrupt an Oval Office meeting and spontaneously pick up the phone and call a friend or confidant. Cabinet secretaries often mill around the building, popping in and out of the office with powerful advisors, including Chief of Staff Susie Wiles and Deputy Chief Stephen Miller. No one wants to miss the decision, a person who's been to the White House for meetings said. One meeting rolls into another. Cabinet members who planned for a 30-minute visit to the White House sometimes end up staying for hours as the president says, hey, why don't you hang around for this? Stick around. If Trump's methods are unorthodox, his supporters say, he is delivering results, and that is the most important thing, isn't it? You can criticize it if you want, but he's actually accomplishing a heck of a lot. He's on the cusp of passing the big, beautiful bill that would accomplish many of his domestic goals, cutting taxes, clamping down on illegal immigration, and he orchestrated a ceasefire between Iran and Israel that's holding for now, solved the peace problem in Rwanda, I mean, it just goes on and on. I mean, it's just been an amazing. So you can look at things and say, well, this is very odd. This is very unusual. And Washington loves to go tisk, tisk, tisk. Look at what happens here. There's nothing but chaos here. I don't care. Look at the results. One former national security official said they were struck by how often they run into Vice President J.D. Vance standing outside the Oval Office near the Keurig coffee maker. That's right. He makes his coffee in a pod. Drinking or eating one of the cookies on the that are always on offer. He's a cookie eater, okay? So he likes coffee and cookies. Can't blame him there. I love the fact that Trump seems to have a lot of respect for J.D. Vance. And by the way, you look at J.D. Vance's numbers, he is looked upon as the most likely person to get the nomination in 28. Now, cabinet members are a routine presence in the West Wing. Trump likes it that way. Trump is the ultimate decision maker, and that's why they come. He wants them there as well. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has an office in the West Wing now that Trump has given him the dual role of national security advisor, the first person to simultaneously hold both jobs since Henry Kissinger did so for Nixon. Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, works next door in the Treasury building. Broad portfolio that encompasses the economy and tariffs. He's a regular visitor. So is Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, a key player in Trump's tariff negotiations. So, I mean, I think that, is it chaotic? You bet it is. But you can't argue with the results. So let him have his unorthodox ways, NBC. Leave him alone. And then this is appropriate to nothing, but I just think it's fascinating. We talk so much about artificial intelligence and how it's going to change things. I don't know about you, but I look at my Facebook feed and there's an awful lot of robots on it. I don't know what they think about me, that they keep sending me all these stories about robots. But robots are changing our life in a way and are about to change our life in a bigger way. There will be a time, I think, in the not-too-distant future where everybody has their Rosie the robot. Or Robert. But listen to this. Amazon now fields more than 1 million robots in its warehouses. And that says that there are at least as many robots as there are people working. It's about to be even out. There is as many robots as there are people working at Amazon. 75% of the e-commerce giant's global deliveries already involve a robot somewhere in the line, the Journal reported. From wheeled Kiva droids that shuttle shelves to the new Vulcan bot that can feel its way through cluttered bins, average staffing has fallen to about 670 employees per facility, the lowest in 16 years, even as packages handled per workers have soared more than 20-fold. So, I mean, it's a story line that tells you how much more efficient we can be as human beings with the assistance of robots. That seems to be the story here. But the other thing that's interesting about it is that it will take away some jobs, but productivity will go up dramatically. I think we're in for maybe the next 10 to 20 years. I really do believe we're in for some huge changes as robots become more commonplace, taking over human jobs. If you marry the robot with artificial intelligence, you're getting something that could be quite impressive. It could be quite helpful. It could be a little scary. Just saying. I worry. It's the AI married with the robots that I'm a little worried about. You got like the robot on Lost in Space. He had a thing you could pull to disengage him. A little power pack or something on the side of the robot. You took that out and he would just bleh. Well, make sure that our robots have that, would you? 51 minutes now past the hour of 10 o'clock on Super Talk.
Weather can change in an instant, and you need to be prepared for any outcome. That's why Generator Supercenter of Nashville will help keep your family safe and connected. We make buying a backup generator simple and easy, with financing options available, free in-home estimate, turnkey installations, no worry warranty, and most importantly, the monitoring and service of your fully installed generator. Come see us at our location in Nashville or visit us online. Generator Supercenter of Nashville. We serve all Middle Tennessee.
Will Diddy be released on bail until sentencing? This story and more coming up at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Is that Ken Weaver? Hello, Ken. How you doing, buddy?
What's going on, Brother Brian?
Hey, what are your plans for the holiday? What are you going to do this 4th of July to celebrate American pride?
I'm going to celebrate America by
America.
Eating whatever I want, drinking things, watching a lot of TV and movies and stuff like that, and just spending time with the family.
There you go. There you go.
Might take Fritz out every now and then, let him walk around the
It's
neighborhood.
going to be a beautiful, beautiful next few days. It's
No
gonna be
storms, Brother
hot,
Brian.
No storms. A lot of sunshine, abundant sunshine. No rain, thank goodness. We might have what they call a convective shower that would pop up, but it will be isolated, and that can happen anywhere during the summer.
Sure.
So there you go. I'm watching the floor of the House of Representatives right now.
Yes, sir.
Let me see if I can bring this up.
To amend the rule.
Yeah, they're trying to debate the rule before they take the debate on the big beautiful bill. You got to pass the rule, but then you pass, and so they're having the vote on the rule now.
Yeah.
And Democrats are trying to make all these amendments.
Yielded for that purpose, and therefore the unanimous consent request cannot be entertained.
But they're out of time. They ran out of time, and so they're just knocking these things down left and right. They're all coming to say, "Oh, I got an amendment."
Gentleman from Nevada is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to amend the rule to make an order the amendment at the desk that protects against any cuts to Medicaid and SNAP.
Gentlelady from North Carolina has not yielded for that purpose. Therefore, the unanimous consent request cannot be entertained.
So they're just going. This is one person after another. The Democrats are just trying to get their shots in. This is all done for the cameras.
Absolutely.
Consent to amend the rule to make in order the amendment at the desk that protects against any cuts to Medicaid and to SNAP.
The chair understands the gentlelady from North Carolina has not yielded for that purpose. Therefore, the unanimous consent request cannot be entertained.
Seems like a theme there, Brother Brian.
Yeah, one after the other. So, look, it looks like we are headed to a vote. And the question, really, I mean, it's a good question. Do Republicans have the vote to pass the rule?
Mm-hmm.
And then if they pass the rule, it's usually a pretty good sign that the measure will pass.
Right.
Pass the rule is sort of a test vote, but you got to pass the rule before you can get on to debate for the measure.
So with this process, does each Democrat have an opportunity to do what we just heard these two do?
Well, they can do this as long as they want to do it, but I mean,
But eventually,
for the purpose of a unanimous consent request.
Gentlelady from North Carolina is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to amend the rule to make in order the amendment at the desk that protects against any cuts to Medicaid and SNAP.
And here it comes.
Chair understands the gentlelady from North Carolina has not yielded for that purpose. Therefore, the unanimous consent request cannot be entertained. The gentleman from Massachusetts.
Mr. Speaker, I yield to the gentlewoman from Alabama.
This is going to go on for a while.
Oh,
We're watching it.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of stuff happening there. And this is the day that the bill could go to the president's desk, but it's not at all clear that Republicans have got the votes they need to get this across the goal line.
Wow.
We're watching it very closely in the swamp today. Right now, time for the news with Ken Weaver at 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
$11 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes. Sean Diddy Combs acquitted on the most serious charges against him today. ABC News legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer and defense attorney has more on the Southern District of New York.
The SDNY has phenomenal prosecutors, has a phenomenal office, and their record speaks for itself. But I think in this case, they overestimated the strength of their case. And this is what happens when a jury speaks.
Yeah, Combs was facing racketeering and sex trafficking charges, but the jury found him guilty of prostitution-related crimes instead. More from Aaron Kotersky on the defense arguments.
He said these women were in it, and it required the jury to make distinctions between consent and coercion and love and control and free will, and in the end, they acquit on the most serious charges that carried a minimum sentence of 15 years, acquitting on sex trafficking in addition to the racketeering conspiracy.
Now, on the prostitution-related crimes, Combs still faces a max of up to 10 years in prison, and the judge is deciding whether he will be released pending sentencing. Extreme heat baking much of the country has claimed the life of another child. Yesterday, an employee at an industrial facility near Houston pulled onto the gated parking lot, walked in, and began her workday. Her 9-year-old daughter still in the car.
The mother knew and left her in the vehicle with some water, a window partially lowered, and went to work.
With an outside temperature in the mid-90s, Sheriff Ed Gonzalez says those measures weren't enough and the girl died. The mother's cooperating, but still may face charges. President Trump says the U.S. and Israel has brokered a deal to stop the fighting in Gaza for 60 days. He's waiting for Hamas's response. It would allow for the release of more hostages, says Tom Sufi Burridge in Tel Aviv.
A lot of our attention should be on Cairo. That is where Hamas officials are meeting with the Egyptians and the Qataris, mediators in all of this. And I think we can assume that for Hamas, what they need to look at now is whether or not there are basically enough guarantees in this proposal on the table right now that would turn a 60-day ceasefire into a permanent truce.
Lululemon going to court suing Costco. The athletic wear company accusing Costco of selling knockoff versions of several of Lululemon's hoodies, jackets, and pants. Alexandra Roberts is a professor of law and media at Northeastern University.
There are some plausible claims here. It's not that surprising that Lululemon brought them, particularly given Lululemon's design patents and trade dress registrations.
So in the lawsuit filed in the Central District of California, Lululemon says Costco has chosen to copy rather than compete. No comment from Costco. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Six minutes past the hour, 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am Brian Wilson. I am your friend and radio buddy filling in for Chris And, who will be filling in for Matt Murphy this afternoon. I think that's the plan. And then we're headed into a long holiday weekend. A lot of people are already taking some time off. Hope that you will spend some time with family and celebrate Independence Day and go out and see some fireworks. Try to be, if you're going to have your own fireworks, be very careful. I hate to be that person. But, really honestly, think very carefully about these fireworks. They can really ruin the whole holiday for you or your family, and the injuries can be debilitating. So, take it seriously. That stuff is dangerous, as my mama used to say. But I got through, somehow I got through my wasted youth with all 10 of my fingers. I don't know. So there you go. We'll see how that goes. I'd love to have you, go out there and celebrate and have a good time. We are watching on the floor of the House of Representatives debate over the rule. Let's listen in just for
the purpose of a unanimous consent
Here
request.
comes another one.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to amend the rule to make an order the amendment at the desk that protects against any cuts to Medicaid and SNAP.
See, got a whole line of Democrats who are now coming, but they're trying to get the Republicans to allow debate on these issues, but they don't have any time left, and the Republicans are not allowing it. That doesn't mean they can't make the request. So this is all for the cameras.
Amend the rule to make an order the amendment at the desk that protects against any cuts to Medicaid and SNAP.
Gentlelady from North Carolina has not yielded for that purpose, and therefore the unanimous consent request cannot be entertained. Gentleman from Massachusetts.
Mr. Speaker, I yield to the gentleman.
This is going to go on for a while. But where are we? Do Republicans actually have the votes to get the big, beautiful bill across the goal line? Listen, I hope that they come to their senses. But apparently a number of the holdouts are now at the White House or going to the White House at some point today to have their arms twisted by Donald Trump. More on that in a moment. Let me just read you. This is from thehill.com. Just came out. This is their best assessment of where things stand. A cross-section of House Republicans, from hardline conservatives to moderates, are headed to the White House on Wednesday to meet with President Trump about the party's big, beautiful bill of tax cut and spending priorities. The meeting comes as GOP leaders lean on Republican holdouts who have voiced serious opposition to the bill, threatening leadership's hopes of getting it to the president's desk by July 4th. Hardliners are vowing to vote against the procedural rule, that's what they're debating now, which would bring the matter to the floor, but if they don't pass the rule, it would bring things to a standstill. Representative Ralph Norman, Republican of South Carolina, member of the conservative House Freedom Caucus who voted against the rule in committee early Wednesday, said he was headed to the White House to meet with Trump along with other lawmakers in the group. A source familiar with the matter told The Hill that the White House invited Freedom Caucus members to the gathering. Most Republican lawmakers relented on their concerns with the bill when it came up in the House in the first time, after Trump and the White House deployed a strong pressure campaign, cajoling members to get on board. This time around, however, writes thehill.com, some members are demanding changes to the Senate-passed version of the legislation to win their support. So here's what happened. House of Representatives passes the measure. It goes to the Senate. And because of the Byrd rule, it's the rule that they have to operate over in the Senate side, in a reconciliation process, some of the things that the Republicans in the House wanted got stripped out by the parliamentarian, the Senate parliamentarian. Said, no, that's not germane. That's the word I was looking for earlier. It's not germane to an actual budget matter. So therefore, you can't consider it under this limited budget reconciliation process. Why do they want to do it with the reconciliation process? Well, that way you vote up or down, and you need a simple majority. You need 51 votes or 50 votes in the Senate to pass it, and now you need 218 votes in the House. But you don't have somebody to break a tie, and you don't have 218 votes as it stands at this moment. So will Donald Trump be able to twist some arms over at the White House to get people across the goal line on this big, beautiful bill? You put all your eggs in the big, beautiful bill basket, didn't you? Here's House Freedom Caucus Chair Andy Harris, Republican of Maryland, not much of a Republican, but a Republican nonetheless, said that without the changes, a group of members in this caucus and beyond will sink the procedural vote to tee up debate on the bill. dealing an embarrassing blow to GOP leaders. See, it got through the House. It went to the Senate. The Senate had to strip some things out because their procedures are different. It comes back to the House, and the House has to either accept the language that came back from the Senate, or if they make changes, guess what? They got to send it back to the Senate. Hopefully it goes back to the Rules Committee, gets closer to the House position, and gets the Senate called back into town, said Andy Harris. Senate should never have left town, the president asked us to say, until this issue was resolved and the Senate left town. GOP sources, though, say leaders are not interested in making any changes, arguing the Senate made the bill more conservative in some areas and more moderate in others, but overwhelmingly similar to what the House passed. About 85% of what the House passed remains. Ask about the White House wanting the House to pass the version of the bill. Well, said Harris, the White House doesn't have a voting card. Mike Johnson, Speaker, met with a group of deficit hawks, including many in the Freedom Caucus, Wednesday morning. He told the Hill on the way to the gathering that he planned to tell lawmakers, we got to get this done. He departed the meeting with more than 40 minutes later, yet telling the Hill it was productive and we're moving forward, but being non-committal on if the House would vote on the procedural matter on Wednesday, as had been planned. We'll see, he said. So we are in the process of going forward with the rule, but this is one of those things, look, if they've got the vote open, they can keep the vote open as long as they want to. That's the decision of the Speaker of the House. And the Democrats are still playing this little stupid dog and pony show thing.
To amend the rule to make in order the amendment at the desk that protects against any cuts to Medicaid and SNAP.
The gentlelady of North Carolina has not yielded for that purpose. Therefore, the unanimous consent request cannot be entertained.
How long are they going to do this? All day long, I guess. I think they're just going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Now, why do I ultimately think this will get across the goal line? I'm going to tell you why. Because, number one, no Republican wants to be the Republican who says, you know what, I caused a 68% increase in taxes. Nobody wants to be that guy or that person. The other thing is you're going up against an incredibly popular president. If you have a desire to be reelected, then you've got to, make sure that you don't get the wrath of Donald Trump. Will not be imposed upon you. He's very popular with Republicans across the country. And if he comes out against you, and you don't want that. Because, he's so popular with the people back home. Listen to what Harry Enton says about Trump's current popularity. It's important to this debate. So here we go. Harry Enton over at CNN, he's the guy who crunches all the numbers. He's the guy who tells you everything you need to know. And here's his take on Trump's popularity at the moment. You ready? Here we go.
Yeah, okay, so we're going to look at the strongly approved numbers. So this isn't just Republicans who like Donald Trump. This is Republicans who love Donald Trump, and he's up like a rocket. Look at this. In July 2017, the strongly approved was 53%. That's pretty good. But look at where he is now. 63% of Republicans strongly approve of the job that Donald Trump is doing about 5 months into his presidency. Republicans love Donald Trump the way that Americans love Disney World. The bottom line is 63%. That is a huge, huge base. And of course, it's just part of a Republican base in which about 90% of them overall approve of him, including the somewhat approves as well.
So you got strongly approved 63%. Strongly or somewhat approve is 90-some%. That's among Republicans. So do you want to be the person that goes against that? Because, if you go against him, he's going to get you primaried. And by the way, as you listen a little more to Harry Hinton, he has a pretty good record with that.
Any politician would like this number here, especially to see it go up. How about compared to other presidents who were Republicans?
Yeah, it's history making. It's history making. What are we talking about here? So why don't we look back? We have all the presidents, Republican presidents, going back over the last 35, 36, 37 years. What are we talking about? GOP, who strongly approved 5 months in. Look at this. George H.W. Bush, Bush 41, 46%. Bush 43, 59. You see Trump, the first term, 53. But look at this. 63%. He beats all the other Republicans on the board here. And I was looking even back since Reagan. And get this, Donald Trump beats Ronald Reagan when it comes to the strongly approved 5 months. And of course, Reagan was coming off that high after that assassination attempt. So the bottom line is Donald Trump is making history with the Republican base. He is more beloved by this Republican base than any Republican base loved any GOP president 5 months in. It is history making.
Well, I mean, when you talk about that, I mean, think about that. Right now, Donald Trump among Republicans is more popular than Ronald Reagan was with Republicans in his second term. Think about that for a moment. More popular than Ronald Reagan, for goodness sakes.
A striking number. Tillis stepping down, stepping aside after President Trump threatened to primary him. The question is, how effective is Trump's endorsement? We know it can hurt, but how effective is it?
Yeah, okay.
So now this is really important. Listen to this carefully, because what you have here is you got Harry Enten about to lay down some truth about how Trump does when he endorses a candidate. In other words, you go against Trump, he says, all right, we're going to find somebody to primary you because you didn't want to be with me on this. How does he do when he brings in another opponent to primary somebody? Quite well, actually.
You know, the bottom line is, if you're a Republican lawmaker, you see this 63%, you say, my goodness gracious, you do not want to go against Donald Trump because the Republican base is with Donald Trump. And it's not just the polling. We actually have the data to show that the Republican base is with Donald Trump. The Times Trump endorsees won the GOP primary for governor and congressional races. Look at this. 2024, 96%. 2022, 95%. 2020, 98%. The bottom line is this. 95% plus of the time, the Trump-endorsed candidate wins in GOP primaries. And even in the cases where Donald Trump endorses a challenger to an incumbent, the majority of the time, that challenger wins. So Donald Trump is a winner in Republican primaries. You go against Donald Trump, to quote the movie Good Burger, you go in the grinder. Donald Trump is the key nugget. His endorsement is the key nugget in a GOP primary because he's historically strongly popular with the GOP.
So he's popular.
Yeah, okay,
he's popular with people in America, Republican voters, and he's popular. And if he says, "Look, I'm gonna endorse this candidate over the incumbent because he wasn't with me when that person is very likely to lose." Now, you do have a number of people who just don't care about that because they're not running for re-election. Certain number of Republicans are not going to run for re-election. They don't care, so they don't have to worry about that. But for everybody else, it's a big deal. So when you look at the popularity of Donald Trump among Republicans and you look at his track record of saying, if I challenge you, you're going to lose, and you'll lose, somewhere about 95% of the time. You have to stop and think about whether you want to be against Donald Trump and if you want to be against what is perceived by Republicans as a very popular piece of legislation. They may, but I don't think it'll work out well for them in the long run in politics. John Rose says he thinks they'll get it across the board. I think you'll get it across the board. I think ultimately there's going to be a lot of wailing and a lot of gnashing of teeth and there's going to be a lot of twisted elbows. Believe me, some elbows are going to get twisted today pretty hard. But ultimately, at the end of the day, he's popular, and you don't want to be, if you're a Republican, you don't want to be against a very popular Republican president. You don't want to be primaried. You're going to find a way to be in favor. You're going to hold your nose and cast the ballot. So there you have, where we are at the moment. Still debating the rule, and this dog and pony show is still going on. It's going to take a while, but I think we'll get there. 20 minutes now past the hour of 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, what's up? It's Chris Hand here for my friends at the Glock store, July 4th, right around the corner. And the Glock store is, of course, going to be closed on the 4th. They're very, very patriotic. But that doesn't mean that you have to miss out on all the great deals during their biggest ever 4th of July sale. We're talking about incredible deals on services like optics and C-cuts, and their best ever prices on performance triggers, threaded barrels, tungsten guide rods, and Glock Factory magazine. Now, here's how you do it. You head over to glockstore.com and click on the 4th of July sale. Just make your choices from all the great deals. Listen, I know that's going to be a heavy lift. I know that's going to be hard for you. And then when you place your order, you select pick up in store. They'll give you a call when it's ready, most of the time within 2 business days, and then you'll have 30 days to pick it up. Now, if you can't make it in the 30 days, you'll just have to browse a bit while they bring it back up from the on-site warehouse. And if you'd rather not make the trip, although I honestly don't know why you wouldn't want to do that, they can always deliver it directly to your door for just about $12 on most orders. Happy 4th of July from myself and my friends at the Glock store. Minutes from the airport, worth the drive from anywhere, always open online, glockstore.com.
Will Sean Diddy Combs be released until he is sentenced on one of those charges that he was found guilty on? We'll tell you about at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 25 minutes now past the hour of 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. There's Ken Weaver in the newsroom. Hey, Ken.
What's going on, Brother Brian?
Yeah, I'm telling you, it looked like I got a lovely day. I see some fluffy white clouds and abundant sunshine.
Yeah, pretty white clouds.
I've got to mow my yard, man. It's just out of control. Every time I wanted to mow my yard, it would rain.
Yeah.
And it just gets worse and worse and worse. So that's my afternoon task.
Yeah, on my walk this morning, there's always this house that, I mean, it looks like their yard is like a forest, Brian. It's been that way for months. Well, this morning I noticed there were these little birds running everywhere. They're called little killdeer. And I realized what was going on. Somebody had mowed the lawn and disrupted their nest. So you've got these little killdeer running around everywhere.
Got nowhere to go. I noticed that when I mow, that the robins come in and start, they come in right behind me and they're poking around in the grass after I mow it.
Getting worms.
I guess that's what they're doing, yeah.
But anyway, man, this place.
When the red robin come bobbing along looking for worms.
So what you got? Is your lawn really thick? I mean, are you going to have
really
some trouble?
Thick. It's really thick, and flower beds are a disaster right now.
Uh-oh.
Yes, so that's my least favorite job in the whole world.
Well, I'm sure you'll be tasked with that anyway.
Oh, you know I will be. Hey, listen, did you know? I did not know this.
What's that?
That Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson once lived in Nashville?
Yes.
You did know that.
I knew, but I learned it a couple of years ago. Apparently, he talked about it during an interview or something and actually came here.
He was sent to live with his father, who lived in Nashville. He ended up living in a motel with wrestling manager Downtown Bruno. I'm hanging out with Bruno.
Hanging out with Bruno.
Yeah. who would become his lifelong best friend. And the reason that I know this is there's an interesting story about Rock Johnson, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, and Jelly Roll.
Yeah.
They apparently, you look at Dwayne The Rock Johnson, a man who's a, impeccable specimen of male physique.
Right.
He's big, strong, strapping guy. And then you got Jelly Roll. Who, by the way, is losing weight, but still got some way to go.
He's getting down there.
But apparently they're very close friends, and it has to do with Jelly Roll's song Only. According to Johnson, he was going through some mental health struggles in 2017 and was having a great deal of time, a difficult time coping. He doesn't go into details about what was going on, but he heard the song Only and was rocked by the lyrics. And he says, the words moved me so much that I reached out to Jelly. Do you call him Jelly?
Yeah, people call him Jelly.
Jelly.
As fans, that's what his fans call him.
He said, you don't know me and I don't know you, but this song of yours is helping me through some stuff I'm dealing with. And I just called to say thank you, brother.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
That's cool, man. I saw I saw a blurb, I think it was last weekend maybe. I don't know if it's true or not, but nonetheless, I do know what is true, part of this story. Apparently, Jelly Roll performed at Kid Rock's bar or something and, was bringing people to tears because his songs are a lot about the experiences that he's gone through in his life.
Right.
He had he's had a rough time, and he admits because of a lot of decisions that he made. And his songs really speak to people, speak to their soul. It's kind of like what The Rock was talking about.
Well, The Rock gave him a gift. Apparently, he gave him, he said, recently, he gave them, here it is, I got it's an old postcard featuring an image of the Alamo Plaza Hotel courts, which was the same postcard that downtown Bruno had given Johnson years ago as a Christmas gift.
Wow. And
he said, this is crazy, said Jelly Roll. He admired the vintage greeting card. This is real old school Nashville history.
That's cool.
At the end, and in the video, Jelly Roll flipped the postcard to reveal a message from Johnson that said, keep doing it, brother. Proud of you. Love you. DJ.
By the way,
I had no idea. You talk about unlikely friends.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, by the way, Jelly Roll has lost 200 pounds.
I know. It's astonishing.
Wow.
Yeah, 200 pounds and still got a little way to go. I mean, he had a lot of work in, but he's looking so much better.
Yes, sir.
Look, I mean, I Jelly Roll, I didn't know what to think about Jelly Roll, but apparently people who have been around him say, nice guy, very sincere.
Yes. Yes. Like he spent time in the Davidson County Jail. Like he served time in the county jail here.
Wow.
Back in his younger days, and he goes and he speaks to inmates at prisons across the country.
Good thing to know that you find these people who find success and that they use it as an opportunity, as a platform to help people, and clearly this is what he's been doing.
And even Dwayne The Rock Johnson struggles too.
That's right. Good to know. Right now, time for the news. Ken Weaver is up next with the news at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7.
11:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Drivers downtown got a crash blocking the right lane. Is going to be the East Loop going eastbound at Shelby Avenue. And then in Franklin, a crash reported 65 northbound just past Murfreesboro Road. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes.
This is a special report from ABC News. I'm Sherry Preston. Sean Diddy Combs found not guilty of sex trafficking and not guilty of racketeering conspiracy. The verdict's a big win for the hip-hop mogul who was convicted of 2 lesser charges of transportation for prostitution. ABC's Aaron Katursky has more on what the jury had agreed upon.
They really had to make a difficult decision, not just on the racketeering conspiracy, but as the defense said, the women that Combs was accused of trafficking were also his long-term girlfriends. Cassie Ventura with him for 11 years. Jane with him for more than 3 years. And the defense tried to argue that they were consensual relationships.
Aaron Katursky outside the courthouse. Both sides have until 1 o'clock Eastern time this afternoon to write letters to the judge to advocate for and against his release. The judge has not set a time, but says he will decide on that today. This is ABC News.
What's going on with the big, beautiful bill? Speaker Mike Johnson says the House could vote as soon as today after the Senate narrowly passed it yesterday. Selena Wang.
We've already seen a group of Republicans, House Republicans, enter the White House today. We know that the president is going to be speaking directly with some of them, that there are going to be multiple meetings between senior White House staff members with these Republicans. And an official tells me that the president has been heavily engaged in this from the beginning and that there's been constant communication between the administration and House Republicans as this bill was making its way through the Senate and undergoing changes there.
Yeah, at least two members of the Freedom Caucus who supported the House version. GOP Rep. Andy Harris of Maryland, Ralph Norman of South Carolina. They're opposed to this Senate version. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
37 minutes past the hour, 11 o'clock. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, watching what's going on in the swamp today. Big swampalicious activity in the House of Representatives, where the measure, the big beautiful bill, which passed the Senate, and boy, it was close, but it passed the Senate, has now landed over in the House, and the House would like to get this dealt with today so they can send it to the president. He can sign it, but I'm not sure they have the votes. Right now, what's going on is this ridiculous dog and pony show on the floor of the House, where Democrats will make a request, and the Republicans will say, "Well, you don't have any time left, and we're not going to yield the floor for that, so you're not going to do it." Here's a little sample of how this goes. It's been going for a while.
For the purpose of a unanimous consent request.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to amend the rule to make in order the amendment at the desk that protects any cuts to Medicaid and SNAP. Thank you.
The gentlelady from North Carolina has not yielded for that purpose, and therefore the unanimous consent request cannot be entertained. Gentleman from Massachusetts.
And they're going to do it again. There's a line that runs all the way up the back of the House of Representatives of people who want to come in, Democrats who want to come in and make the same statement.
I ask unanimous consent to amend the rule to make in order the amendment at the desk that protects against any cuts to Medicaid and to SNAP.
The gentlelady from North Carolina has not yielded for that purpose, and therefore the unanimous consent request cannot be entertained.
What is the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and over and over again without expecting that there's going to be any change in result?
I ask unanimous consent to amend the rule to make in order the amendment at the desk that protects against any cuts to Medicaid and SNAP.
The gentlelady from North Carolina has not yielded for that purpose, and therefore the unanimous consent request cannot be entertained.
Nope. Well, this is going to go on for a while. I mean, they're just being dilatory at this point. They're just trying to drag things out.
Oh yeah. Well, and this is going to be their 2026 strategy.
You think?
Oh yeah. This is definitely going to be part of that, Brother Brian.
Listen, if this thing gets passed, I think we're poised to really see the economy just explode in a big way, especially if we can get interest rates to come down. If they'll ever come down, it would really just be the final thing.
Well, it's like you were saying earlier, and and experts are saying it too. We are not seeing the doom and gloom that was forecast because of the tariffs.
Yeah, everybody said, "Oh, you're going to be pushing us into a recession." We haven't even had inflation of any significant matter.
It's pretty much stayed relatively the same.
I mean, it's gone up a little, but it always goes up a little, and it's certainly well within expectations. Certainly not the doom and gloom that had been forecast.
Right, and the administration doesn't want that because, I mean, I'm a firm believer the economy is what really matters.
Yeah,
but it's like you said, the doom and gloom is not happening yet, and it may not. We don't know.
And, you know, I think that the other brilliant thing that the Trump people are doing is any position that he takes forces Democrats to take the opposite position.
Yes. Yes, it does.
They will just, it's sort of a reaction. They can't help themselves. So if Trump says, "I'm for this," we're against it. Well, but they're against things that are incredibly popular with the American people simply because, Trump's for it. We can't be for the same thing that Trump is for.
Right.
And they just, it's Trump derangement syndrome, and he's learned to use that to his advantage.
Yeah.
And basically, he has pinned back the Democrats to where they are defending positions that are popular with only 15 or 20% of Americans.
Yep.
And the 80% positions are the ones that Trump is taking and running with. And again, Republicans love this guy. 92% approval for Donald Trump among Republicans. So are you going to go against all of that to stand in the way of his signature piece of legislation? Some of this is people trying to get, some kind of last-minute concession.
Sure.
Some of it is there are people who truly believe the cuts should be deeper. I believe that those people are sincere.
Sure.
But do you stand in the way of the progress that's being made? I just can't imagine, in the grand scheme of things, people are going to do. But look, they've got a bunch of people at the White House right now And Trump is in there twisting their arms because they don't have the votes.
And he might be doing it literally.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he's got the Secret Service there. You do it.
Yeah.
That's not allowed. It's not allowed.
No.
But it's very, how in the world? Trump said the other day that a lot of times he gets on the phone and he calls people and said, I really need you to be on board. And say, oh, yeah, I'll be there, Mr. President. And he said, but I had on my list that you were against it. Well, I was, but I'll be there for you, Mr. President. It's just that sometimes they want to be called. They want to get that call from the president so they can talk about it, I guess. I don't know.
Gives them some street cred, if you will.
I guess that's it. I don't know. But that's what's going on right now. Seems like things are breaking up in the House of Representatives. Let's see the other thing. The murmur
advise
of the crowd.
both sides of the time remaining.
Yes,
the gentleman from Massachusetts has 7 minutes remaining. The young lady from North Carolina has 7 3/4 minutes remaining in the debate.
The gentlelady has how many minutes?
It's like watching paint dry.
For the majority, 7 for the minority.
Will reserved.
Gentleman reserves. Gentlelady from North Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I give 1 minute to the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Fine.
Let's just listen and see what the Republicans are saying.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I sat here and listened to that panoply of speeches or motions over the last few seconds, I was reminded of the fact that when we say there should be no cuts to Medicaid, we are saying there should be no cuts to illegal immigrants that are getting Medicaid. Now, we live in a world where we spend more money than we bring in. And it is not fair to actual Americans to be forced to take on additional debt to give benefits to people who are not in this country legally. And I would note that the Democrats have not proposed a solution that would allow us to continue to give benefits to people who shouldn't be here anyway and pay for them without our children going into future debt. We must keep that in mind. We are here to fight for Americans, and that is what this bill does. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And his minute is gone. So this is going to go for a while. I think he's right. I think there's a lot of things. The Democrats are going to make the big deal about, well, you're reducing SNAP benefits. You're reducing Medicaid for some people. Not Americans.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. That would be insane. Now they're saying they are saying that some people who are eligible for it now, who are able-bodied and have the ability to work, should work. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay. I think most Americans say, yeah, man, I'm out here working. You get out there and work and earn that Medicaid.
Yes, sir.
So I don't know. These positions, again, Trump takes the popular position. Democrats take the least popular position, but they are defending people who don't want to work for a living and people who are in this country illegally. That's where Democrats are.
That's hard to defend.
It's hard to defend. Stephen Smith, I don't know if you saw this. There's a commentary he did. I wish I could find the sound. I don't have it, but I can quote what he said. He's talking about the election of Zoran Mondami as the Democrat nominee for mayor in the city of New York. And he's saying, look, what are you doing, Democrats? Let me be very, very clear. If the Democratic Party becomes the likes of Zoran Mondami, who, by the way, I'm not trying to throw any shade on him or anything. If the Democrat Party becomes him, you have no chance. You have no chance on a national basis in terms of the presidency and Senate seats in the House. You have no chance. Yeah, I mean, this is Stephen A. Smith,
and he's a Democrat.
Yeah. So, that's again. The Democrats continue. I think the Democrats may be headed for a split. Some people think that the Republicans could have a split. Elon Musk wants to see a split, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, I mean, don't you think this has kind of been percolating for a while, Brian? And
with
now,
the Democrats?
Yeah, with the Democrats. And now this New York City mayoral race might just be the spark that just rips it right in two.
Well, and if that's, I would encourage that. If you feel that strongly, you break away from the Democrat Party, and guess what? You have divided the party, and a party that is divided against itself cannot stand. Mm-hmm. It will not stand, and you will be limiting. You'll have. Oh, you'll feel great about yourself as you go out and you take on those lost causes that Americans do not support. But it's going to be about 20% of Americans are going to be in your party. You will not win. Right. Because Americans are just not ready for some of that nonsense. It's one of the reasons why Trump did so well. They saw the nonsense the Democrats were pushing, and they said, "No, I can't be for that." So anyway, I just think I think this is probably going to happen. By the way, more winning with Trump. Have you seen this?
What's that?
Paramount Global and CBS agreed to pay President Trump a sum that could reach north of $30 million to settle the president's election interference lawsuit against the network. This has to do with 60 Minutes and the re-editing of the Kamala Harris interview,
right?
Where she couldn't put her thoughts together, and so they cleaned it up and re-edited it in a way that made her look better.
Yeah. And
he says, that's essentially your campaign. You're helping her campaign. It was a campaign contribution. An in-kind contribution. And now CBS and Paramount are going to pay him up to $30 million, could receive $16 million up front to cover legal fees, cost of the case, and contributions to his future presidential library or charitable causes to be determined at Trump's discretion.
Yeah.
So $16 million, he's not keeping the money.
No.
He's just simply saying, you gave her a contribution, and that's not the job of 60 Minutes.
Right.
And therefore, I'm bringing this lawsuit against you. CBS News, the editorial staff at CBS News, from Scott Pelley on down, they're apoplectic that there's a settlement underway. They don't want the settlement. But I think Paramount and CBS have decided that they can't win this case. Better to cut your losses and move on.
And that interview, I thought Bill Whitaker actually did a good job in that interview.
Yeah.
I mean, he was pressing her.
Yeah.
On the economy and
but
other
the thing came in the re-editing of the thing.
Right.
When you edit, there's a lot of stuff in any interview. I mean, trust me, you do an interview in television news, a lot of it ends up on the edit room floor. But you've got to give them you've got to give a fair representation of how it went. You can't clean up things like that.
Right.
You just can't. And everybody wants, apparently the campaign put a lot of pressure on them. You got to clean that up. You got to help us out. And they did. They went along with it. But you're never supposed to agree to those things up front. If you did, then there's a real problem. And look, if you are editing, everybody gets edited. I've edited audio and videotape all my life. And it's fine to edit. I edit stuff for this show. It's okay to edit as long as you don't change the meaning of what was happened. If you're editing for time,
exactly,
or to take out a hiccup, that's all good and fine. There's no real problem with that. But when you're editing to make them look better than they actually looked in the interview,
right,
therein lies the problem. 50 minutes now past the hour, 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
How would you like to have Jesus Christ pray for you? Did you know that Jesus Christ does pray for you if you're a Christian? Hebrews 7:25 says, "Therefore he is able also to save forever those who draw near to God through him, since he always lives to make intercession for them." In Scripture, intercession means to pray on behalf of. Jesus Christ is your advocate. An advocate comes to our aid or pleads our case to a judge, offering support and counsel and interceding for us when necessary. In other verses, Jesus calls the Holy Spirit our advocate. Just like you talk to yourself, when Jesus talks to himself, it's prayer. The Bible says no matter what you go through today, next week, or next year, Jesus is praying for you if you have trusted him as your Savior. He's on your side. Are angels real or a figment of the imagination? Angel means messenger. Angel or angels are mentioned over 350 times in the Bible, and because all Scripture is God-breathed, we know that angels are real and were created to glorify and to serve God. When Joseph doubted how Mary became pregnant and that she was to give birth to Jesus, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream. Do not be afraid. The child within her has been conceived by the Holy Spirit. Angels bring God's messages to people. Protect God's people, offer encouragement, give guidance, carry out punishment, patrol the earth, and fight the forces of evil. But there are also bad angels. Satan is an angel of high rank and led many angels in a rebellion against God. Although angels are powerful, they are not to be worshipped. Learn more about good and bad angels by scanning the QR code.
It is 55 minutes past the hour of 11 o'clock and heading up into the noon hour. We're going to have Chad Benson sliding in here between noon and 3 to keep going on. It's been a good run here. Been here doing about 8 days filling in for Chris Hand while he filled in for Matt Murphy. But now I think things return to their natural state. Everybody's back after the holiday in their rightful place. Chad Benson standing by to tell us what's going to happen on the Chad Benson Show coming up in just a few minutes. Good morning to you, Chad.
What's going on, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing well. Watching the craziness on the floor of the House, I think maybe during your show, it's possible.
It's possible.
But I don't know. Do you think they'll get the votes? I mean, they say they don't have the votes right now.
I don't think. I think it's going to take a lot of horse trading and you know, this isn't a good look. There's a lot of things in there that people don't like. And remember, then from here, you got to go back and do we have to reconciliation? We got to make sure that what's the Senate think? We all have to have one bill we agree on. And and here's my thing, Brian. I get Trump is all about branding. He's pushing this thing for the 4th. You know he wants to do it. We've been joking about it. This is a big deal to him. That's what I've heard a lot of people say, especially Republicans go, you know, this arbitrary get it done by the 4th. You guys should have started way earlier than this because you knew this was always going to be an uphill battle, and they added more money to it, and they took some stuff out. So I think there's still a lot of horse trading to be done.
Well, the reconciliation process, the thing that makes it attractive is you only need 51 votes to pass a measure.
Yeah.
You don't need the 60 votes in the Senate. But the bad news is about reconciliation is that it has to be germane to the budget process, or it gets struck out. So a lot of things the House put in there were always going to be struck out by the Senate. And now it comes back, and they're saying, well, we need to send it back to the Senate. We don't like what they did. Well, if you do that, this bill will never pass. So
yeah, it's not going to pass when he wants it.
That's right. I think it's going to be interesting to see whether he can get it across the goal line today. But one way or the other, I think that's the big Washington story. What about the 4th of July? Got any big plans?
No. You know what? Not blow myself up. Every year I say that. Every year I say.
Let's try not to blow ourselves up. That's a laudable goal.
You know what? I've got a couple listeners from my national show that one day this guy texts me like a week or two after 4th of July, and he says, man, I should have listened to you. I blew my fingers off.
Oh, no. Goodness. How
and that was a
horrible.
couple years ago, and he still listens. And I was joking about it today as I ended the show. You know who you are, and he texts me. He goes, "Yeah, I know who I am." So don't do it. Why? It shouldn't be that hard. Explosive. Well, you know what? Where else do we go? Let's sit around in the heat, eat everything we possibly can, drink copious amounts of alcohol, then blow things up.
It's all, and what could possibly go wrong with that?
Everything. Even yesterday, did you see that huge explosion at the fireworks place in California?
I just saw that on MSNBC. I got a quad split here so I can see all of the major news networks at the same time, if you want to call MSNBC a news network. But they played that video. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, that was
it's an entire warehouse that has just gone up, and it was during the daytime, and it just explodes and continues and continues and continues. It was a pretty impressive situation there in California.
Again, fireworks are dangerous, just to put that out there. And we will talk about that. We'll talk about travel today. Obviously, Diddy. He kind of did. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. So we got a packed show.
They kind of did it to Diddy, didn't they?
Well, yeah, but at the same time, he didn't get really hammered the way I think a lot of people were hoping he was.
Yeah. Well, anyway, a lot of stuff going on, and it's all coming up next right here on the Chad Benson Show. Thank you so much for allowing me to fill in here for the last 8 days. I'll see you again when I see you. Have a great holiday. Enjoy your Independence Day with family, and we'll see you soon.